Well, thank you everybody for taking the time today. Again, my name is Kate Hoff. I'm an ASR for BizNet. And essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to run through a few things. We're going to go through a quick PowerPoint presentation just to kind of give you a background on who we are and what our product is. And then we're going to move into a demo. And after the demo, we'll get into a Q&A session. Now, as we go through this and as we go through the demo, if you do have questions, please write them down so that when we get into the Q&A session, it's fresh in your mind and we can answer those at that point. So essentially, we'll start with who we are. Well, we've been in business for 16 years, and essentially we're an award-winning software company recognized by Inc. 5000, K2 Enterprises, and most recently Tech Titans. And we're also global partners with several ERPs, and as you'll see, Sage in the upper left-hand corner, which is representative of a large portion of you. And how it came about is that essentially there's a data explosion going on, and every day it gets bigger and more complex. So, most companies are using several different tools to attack this problem and to try and gain stronger insight into their data. A lot are using dashboarding, data visualization, big data and BI, whereas we take a different approach. We're essentially a complementary approach to Excel, and we're built upon Excel. And our software really kind of incorporates two different things. We're an Excel add-in, and then we're also a connector into your ERP database. So why did we choose Excel? Well, there's over 1 billion users in the world, and it's one of the most widely adapted business applications out there. And currently in over 75 different languages, and the presentation layers are very robust. There's a lot that you can do with Excel. Some people are taking advantage of it, and others aren't. We like to leverage what Excel already offers, and bring your data in with it. So, what is Excel used for by most companies? Top line is going to be decision making. Second is consolidation and summarizations. Consolidations being very important to our entire customer base and something that we handle very well with Excel. And it goes all the way down the line to 29% being data entry back into ERP systems. And here's in a nutshell what it looks like, most companies versus when they come on board. Most companies are spending a huge amount of time aggregating data and distributing reports, and that leaves very little time for analysis. And we turn that on its head. We shorten the amount of time that it takes to aggregate your data and to distribute reports so that you have more time to actually analyze the data, look at your business trends, and to make smarter business decisions. And so what is BizInsight? Well, Excel reporting is difficult. You can't drill down into the numbers. You're always looking at static sheets. And as far as sharing, it takes a lot of time. So we've created 50 pre-built connectors that are real-time connectors into various ERP systems. So you actually have live access to your data, and that goes into our BizInsight product, which allows you to create live interactive reports and do so within minutes. And then, there's the broadcast tool, BizBroadcast, which allows you not only to manually go in and once you've generated a report, transmit out, several reports with a single click, but it also allows you to automate your reporting as well. And I'll get into that towards the tail end of the demo. So, in the demo, what we're going to do is we're going to get answers on the fly. I'm going to drill down into the details, basically show you how our drill down works. I'm going to take a static report and convert it into a dynamic so you can see how easy that is. And then automated distribution of reports. that biz broadcast that I was talking about, that's the last portion of the demo that I'm going to get into. So without further ado, let me bring up the demo. And, essentially this is kind of telling a story, and this is something that most people go through. Let's just say for the sake of example, your boss comes to you and says, hey, look, I know it's short notice, but I have a meeting in 2 hours and I need you to put together, the numbers for the month as quick as possible. I don't expect it to be perfect. Just get it to me as quickly as you can. Well, typically speaking, most people would be going back and massaging data, pulling data in, massaging it, and also doing a lot of data entry. But with BizInsight 7, it's just a matter of taking an old report that's already converted to dynamic and changing the parameters of that report. So just by using the drop down, I've changed this to a 1-month income statement for the month ended December 2016. And so I send that off to the boss, right? And of course, I'm going to end up with a phone call shortly after, because the boss is going to take a look at the report and the inevitable question is going to come up, because essentially Excel reports come in 2 flavors. They're either fast or they're accurate, but really they're not both. So boss calls and says, is this report accurate? And the answer would be yes, absolutely. These are the latest numbers from our database. So the boss might ask, well, gosh, if I'd have known that, I'd have asked you to, to build that into a quarterly report. Can you pull that off before my meeting? Sure, no problem. All I have to do is roll the date back here, and then I'm going to grab this here, and I'm going to pull it over, and the super function is actually going to recognize what I'm doing. So now I've converted a 1-month report into a 3-month trending income statement for the quarter ended December 2016. And you can go on with this, and I'm going to kind of give you an example. Let's just say, and this is one of the things that's a little unique to our software. Let's just say you have a fiscal year that doesn't follow the calendar year. Let's say, for the sake of the argument, that your fiscal year is, begins in September, and you need to do an annual report. Well, again, our software has the capability of seeing what it is that you're trying to accomplish and putting it together. So essentially what I've done is, not only did I make a 12-month trending income statement for the year ended to 2015, but this is where we're a bit unique. A lot of softwares don't have the capability of going year over year. So we've rolled from 2015 into 2016. So that just kind of illustrates how easy it is to take an existing report that you do all the time and converting it from an old report into a current report for 1 month, 3 months, and a year. The next one is going to be a division report. And, for some of you, you might have to use a little bit of imagination, because this works similarly for, it doesn't matter if it's a multi-division company or multi-entities. It all works the same, but this is to illustrate a couple of things. Of course, having a dynamic report that rolls, with the parameters that you put forth, so you can get the latest data out of it, like I just pulled to 2016 and rolled those numbers. But there's essentially right here 3 different years of data, and at the same time, there's 5 different divisions if you include all. So you can do separate breakouts for individual divisions or entities, so that you can have reports for those particular heads. But it also shows that this is essentially 15 reports built into one. So instead of having this massive report with 15 different tabs, everything's nice and cohesive and in one report. And this is where we're going to get into drill down. For those of you that generate reports, I'm sure you get a lot of people that come back to you and say, hey, can you run a report on this particular aspect of the report that you just gave me? Well, let's say somebody comes back and says, you know what, the revenue hardware numbers for February are looking a little suspect to me. Can you run an ad hoc report? Your answer would be, well, no, actually, you already have that data. All you have to do is highlight that cell, right click on it, go down to the BizInsight drill down, and I'm just going to pull it into a table. So now you can see all of the data that went, that's behind that particular cell. And, the more appropriate way that most people would do it is they would pull it into a pivot table. And this is going to give them the capability of, essentially dragging and dropping data into, the appropriate structure, however they want, to generate the report that they need on the fly. So this saves those who build reports an incredible amount of time. And it also saves with the frustration of those that are receiving the reports, because they're not having to get back into a long line of people that are waiting, to have reports done for them as well. The next one here is in a rolling 12-month income statement. And again, this is a dynamic report. This is where we start to leverage what's already built into Excel. Most people don't know, but there's over 230 different charts that are built into Excel, and this is one of them. And we've tied this into the net income line of this report. So as I roll it and change the date parameters, not only do you see this, the changes here in the numbers, but you also see a change in the graph. So this kind of caters to the best of both worlds. Some people are more visual, some people, want to see the numbers, and then there's those that want to still have the capability of, seeing further detail, so, we expand this out. And at any point, someone who receives this report can go into this data and they can pull out a table or a pivot table and really drill down into that information. Again, freeing up a great deal of time, because it's not a static report, it's a dynamic report that actually has all the data behind it. Next one is actual versus budget. And of course, the most important things being right here, the actual budget and percentage of goal. As this rolls through the year, you'll see that, of course, you're going to see the actual change, but you're going to see actual budget and percentage of goal. So when this is updated on a monthly basis, you have that capability of seeing where you are on track. Again, this is all going out to your database, and it's pulling that live data out of your database. So essentially, it's saving an incredible amount of time and making reporting a lot easier. The next one is going to be the income statement, which is dreaded by a lot of people. And when our customers come on board with us and we ask them, particular questions about reports and what they're doing with their reports, often when we say, well, how long does it take you to generate a monthly income statement? A lot of the companies are going to say it takes them anywhere from 20 to 30 hours. But using BizInsight, this actually becomes a report that's, not only easy to update by just doing a quick, update of the parameter of the report, as you just saw, but this is one of those reports that, since you have to put it out on a monthly basis, it would make sense to automate this report fully so that you actually never have to touch it again. And, this is going to free up a great deal of time and is going to allow you to focus on more important things. For example, aged receivables. And, again, we're looking at a dynamic report here. As I change that, you see that the data changes with it. And we've added, again, leveraging what's already built into Excel, a spark chart. And so something like this allows you to take emotion out of decision making and look at decisions from a purely logical standpoint. So let's say you have a warehouse guy that comes up and says, look, I have an order for computer repair and sales and Blackwell emulsions. and they both want the exact same product, but I only have enough to fill one order. What do I do? Um, well, the quick decision would be, it looks like computer repair and sales, they obviously do more business. So most people would say, oh, just give it to them. But when you're looking, when you can pull up a report like this, you can look very quickly and see, you know what, they're kind of going pretty far up on their past due terms. Whereas Blackwell Emulsions is doing a far better job of paying their bills off. So, the decision might be made at that point to, look, why don't we just, go ahead and fulfill the order with Blackwell Emulsions, and I'll give computer repair and sales a call, tell them that they're on back order, and talk to them about their past due terms. And this next report is just it's a quick customer analysis report, but this is, obviously something that could be vital. And again, we're looking at a dynamic report. As I roll, through the information, you're going to see some changes in the report. But more importantly, it's showing the robustness of what you can do, the capabilities of, the types of reports that you can build, that are relevant to your company. For example, we have 2 years worth of data here, and obviously there's 12 months in a calendar year. And then if we look here, we have essentially 6 different territories. So we can just roll into territories and look at them that way. But it is illustrating that there's well over 100 reports that are actually built into one. And again, when you're doing your reporting, oftentimes you're parsing out reports. You have C-level executives that are getting a full roll-up, and you have other people that are only privy to data that is relevant to them. And this is where this really comes in handy. Similarly, a sales analysis of the top 3 performers in a company. Again, we're dealing with dynamic data. It's going out to the database and it's pulling this data. So you can see that rolls with it, but we're also leveraging what's inside of Excel and, giving a graphical interface to, to the report as well, so that you can look at the, not only the trends of who are the top performers, but how is the company performing overall on a monthly basis. And, with that, what can you do from a marketing perspective, and how can you prepare for when there's going to be dips in sales so that you can improve sales in that particular time. So this is where everything kind of comes together. And those of you that are very familiar with Excel and understand how Excel works, you're going to see the stark difference between your average static report versus doing a report with our software. If you notice up here, because I have this cell right here highlighted, you notice up here, that's just a manual data entry. All of this stuff is just manual data entry. Whereas if we go, back to, any of these reports, and you look at one of these, you're going to see this Biz super function. This is really kind of the secret sauce of our software. This is what our software does, is it creates those relationships. And that's how we convert static reports into dynamic. And I'm going to show you how easy that is to do just real quick. I'm going to take this report and I'm going to use our query tool, and I'm going to convert this report from static into dynamic. And I'm going to flip over here to function. Let's get all this stuff cleared out of the way. And, essentially it asks you pretty simple questions. Where is your data? In this particular instance, I'm using Excel. What data set do you want to pull? I'm going to go for GL balances. What action would you like to take? We're going to use sum. And what information would you like returned? And I'm going to go for month to date net. And then it's just a matter of adding filters. And I'm going to add a filter for fiscal year, fiscal period, and segment 1 of the data. And then I'm just going to add these parameters here real quick. So now all I have to do, since I've got this pretty much well set up, is really point to where I'm creating these relationships with the data. So fiscal year, let me pull this over here so that you can see it, is going to be right there. I found that, I click OK, and then I run back over here and I go to fiscal period, and that fiscal period is going to be right here. And I'm going to do a quick anchor of that and click OK, and then segment 1, which is going to be right here. And again, I'm going to do an anchor and click OK, and I look this over. Everything looks to be what I want, so I click OK here, and it's going to ask me where that target cell is. And I'm going to go ahead and choose that as my target cell. And it's going to ask me if I want to override it. I say yes. And now, if you look up here, you see the Biz Super function. Okay, so I've now created this cell as a dynamic. If you look at this one, again up here, you're going to see that that's a static. But if you focus on this particular cell, when I go over here and I change the date parameter, you're going to see that that information changes with it. So the big question, do you have to do that to every single cell? Short answer, yes. However, all I have to do really is copy that function and pull it over. And so this entire section of that report is now dynamic, and I'm going to copy the function down to here, make a quick adjustment, and then I just do the exact same thing. I pull and then drag this over, and now this entire report, just in less than a minute, has actually been converted into a dynamic report. So you see that that data rolls with it, and essentially when I click on any aspect of this report, you see up here that we have those functions, those super functions up there. So just kind of to give an idea of what leveraging the Excel the Excel features is like. If you want to actually kind of turn this into somewhat of a dashboard, I'm just going to make a quick dashboard out of this. We're going to take total revenue, and I'm going to just go to insert and then go into charts. Let's grab this one. And if you have those people that are more visually inclined in your company and they don't want to look at numbers, they just want to see a quick snapshot, this would be how easy it is to actually pull this together for them. I'm going to do one more as an example, and just go, and we can scroll through here, and I'm going to go ahead and do a bar chart. Let's just go ahead and select that, and I'm going to pull that over here. So we can actually hide all that data behind there, and we can generate our own dashboard on the fly. And essentially, as you change the parameters of the report and you update, that dashboard's going to update with it. And to give you a better idea of how that works, this is a dashboard that we generated based off of this report. Again, we're dealing with dynamic data. So when you have those people that are more dashboard oriented and they don't want to look at the numbers, these are the things that you can create very quickly and easily, using the software, and essentially changing those parameters. When you change those parameters, the software is actually going to update the report for you. And that brings me to the other thing that I said I would talk about, which is our broadcast tool. Now, Biz Broadcast does several things. You can take and merge reports, stuff, if you're preparing a report and you have to add some, Word file or PDF or what have you, you can merge that into your report. But it also allows you, this is the main way to distribute reports with the software, to make it far easier than it normally would be, and also to automate if you'd like. So all you have to do once you've finished a report, we've just done all this reporting, and it's time for us to wrap it up, and we need to figure out what format we want to put it in. Do we want it in PDF? Do we want it in one of these many forms of Excel? Or do we want it maybe in HTML so that we can send it out to a website? And then once that's done, where do we want to send it? Do we want to send it somewhere locally? Do we want to send it somebody's desktop, to a OneDrive, to a shared network drive? Whatever it may be, you can send it to any of those places. But most people are going to prefer to send it email. And this is where you can start leveraging your distribution lists, generating distribution lists for various reports so that certain people get particular reports, or if it's one of those reports that you have to parse out, maybe the C-level executives get a full roll-up of this report, and then again, there's division managers or those that are overseeing particular entities that only get the data that's relevant to them. You can set that up, as far as your distribution lists. And then, those that are only privy to certain aspects of reports, this is where you would just, you can just parse out and you can grab particular things and, only give them certain aspects of a full roll-up report. And so there is the last piece of this, and that is scheduling. And this is where everybody saves such a huge amount of time. We've already showed you, basically once your reports are dynamic, you're already going to be saving a bunch of time, but saving in the distribution is equally important. Going back to that monthly income statement, something that has to be done every single month, and somebody has to have the responsibility of doing that. Using BizBroadcast, though, you have the capability of actually scheduling. Let's just say, it's that monthly report that you need to send out. You can, select, which day it goes out, and what time the report is generated and transmitted. And once you set up the schedule for this, then, it's done. What's going to happen is the software, at that specified time, like on that particular, portion, it was 2 a.m., software is going to pull up the template for that report that is dynamic. It's going to go to your ERP database, and it's going to pull all the fresh data into the report, populate it, and then transmit it to the appropriate people in the way that you've specified. So you never have to touch that report. It is done for you automatically. And when you get to that, point that you're sending out the reports, basically, it's going to look a lot like this. I mean, this is essentially the report that we just did in a PDF format. So you can kind of just get a visual understanding. Notice that there's some breakouts, that I was talking about of, specified regions, divisions, things of that nature. So it's going to give you the capability of putting out either simple or very complex reports in a very unified manner that's easy to digest for both those who prefer to see it in Excel and prefer to see it in a more visual dashboard sense. So with that said, I'm going to flip back over here, and for some reason it's not giving me the particular slide that I want. So with that said, I guess we'll go straight into questions.
Thank you, Cade. First question has to do with broadcast. Will you review again the types of files that can be sent using broadcast? Oh,
sure. Basically, when we go into broadcast, there's the rendering formats. And, I mean, some people, and this is kind of something that I do need to educate everyone on. There's different types of users, right? There's going to be those who have, there's those that are generating reports, and those are report builders. And so they have access to the data and that live access to the data. And then there's really kind of two different types of people that are going to be consuming those reports. There are going to be those that actually need to drill down into the data. They need that ad hoc reporting capability. And then there's those who just need a quick visual. They need a static report that they can look at. For those that are static, you can do something like a PDF. But then you can get into a more sophisticated Excel, where you're for those that are true report viewers that need that drill down. Those are going to have that dynamic data. And what's going to happen with that is when one of these reports is generated, as I showed you the drill down, you have to imagine that you're going to see the top line portion of or top line view of the report. You're going to see the data in the manner that it needs to be seen. But what you can't see is that data behind it until it you drill down into it. So those that require that drill down, when you send a report to them, there's a feature called Pack and Go, and it's going to take all that data and it's going to pack it up and it's going to transmit it out, to that person, so that when they open it up, they have all that data that is behind it. And then of course there's the other thing, again, HTML, for those who want to publish to a website, but pretty much those are going to be the formats that we publish in.
Thank you for that. The next question is also related to that, and I think you've already answered this. When you send the report in Excel format, do those receiving the email need BizInsight to drill down? You do need at least a BizInsight viewer license in order to drill down
Correct.
on the data. Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely. And that's where I need to stress, when I was talking about those two different types of people that are, report viewers, the ones that need the drill down capability, they need to be able to see the data behind the data. They need to be able to generate their own ad hoc reports. Those are the ones that actually need a license, a viewer license. The other ones that you can send just a static report to or a PDF, there's absolutely no licensing requirement for them, which is also especially important when you're sending reports outside of the company.
Thank you. Next question has to do with budgets. Can you look at a budget in Sage 100 versus a budget in Excel, I think is the question. Or perhaps it's asking if you can look at budget versus actual?
Yes, and that's kind of a confusing question because it could be taken a few different ways. If you're looking at taking outside data source, like you have a budget that's in Excel already, maybe that came from an outside data source, and then and then your Sage budget information, you could actually merge that data, if that's what you're looking to do, into a single report. You do have that capability of pulling outside data. Is that where we were getting at, or?
I have just asked that person to clarify if we did not answer the question or not,
Okay.
While we wait for that one to respond. Next question is, what is BizInsight 7 versus BizInsight 5?
Real quick before we step further into this, I actually have Charles, who's our SE. He had come into the call a little bit late, because he was wrapping up something else, and he's with us now. I'm going to have him answer that last question in more detail. Charles?
And actually, I can somewhat answer that question. That one is coming from a current customer, and they have BizInsight 5 for Sage 100, but they also have the old desktop connector, which I believe turned into BizInsight 7. Maybe Charles can help clarify that a little bit.
Yeah, that's correct. It's the Biz Desktop became BizInsight 7. And so, yeah, using Biz Desktop, you can certainly incorporate external data, but the functions in Sage 100, the Sage 100 connector, also point to the budget. They point to the budget tables in Sage 100 as well.
Okay, perfect. So we can definitely report on actual versus budget by pulling in the Sage 100 budget.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you, Charles. I believe that is all the questions. So thank you everyone for joining us this afternoon. If you do have any interest in learning more about BizInsight for your particular company and pricing for that product, please contact me directly. This is Jody Patterson, Client Care Manager with Oasis Solutions. You can reach me at our regular phone number, 502-429-6902. I'm extension 225, or email me at Jody, Jody, at oasisky.com. Charles and Cade, thank you so much for your demonstration this afternoon. We appreciate it.
Absolutely, it's our pleasure.
Great. Thank you for joining us, everyone, and have a wonderful afternoon.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.